The championships Wimbledon are among us, and the ladies' draw has a lot of people talking. Iga Swiatek will be playing her first tournament since hoisting her fifth slam trophy at Roland Garros earlier this month. People say that she has a brutal draw, while second and third seeds Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka are said to have cakewalks. And then the two past championships saw rather unexpected champions lift the Venus Rolls water dish. Are we in store for another surprise this year, or will a strong title favorite like Elena Rybakina or even Ons Jabeur do their big one on Championship Saturday? Hey, my name is Christian Bassnight, and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. Looking at the projected quarterfinals first, we have Iga Swiatek going up against potentially the defending champion Marketa Vondrousova, number 4 seed Elena Rybakina going up against number 5 Jessica Pegula, potentially Zheng facing 3rd seed Aryna Sabalenka, and then the final projected quarterfinal is between Paolini and Coco Gauff. Now, looking at Iga's section or potential path to the title, she opens up against Swiatek, yes, Swiatek yet again, and then could then face Croatian Petra Martic in round 2. Katerina Siniakova is her first projected seeded opponent in round 3. Jelena Ostapenko and opt for her in round 4. Marketa Vondrousova, of course, in the quarterfinal. Elena Rybakina in the semifinal. And Coco Gauff, second seed in the final. Of course, everyone's eyes are drawn to that first round match between Iga and Swiatek. The two played one time before in the opening round of a slam this year at this year's Australian Open, which Iga took in 2 tight sets, I believe 6-4, 7-5. A lot of people say, oh, this is a horrible opening round match for Iga. And while it's not the best, it's also not the worst. She could have played a lot more dangerous opponents than a Swiatek. The American is in very rocky form right now, and she actually lost love and won to Victoria Golubic in the Eastbourne Qualies, although she could very much rise from the ashes and play an unbelievable match like she did in Melbourne against Iga, or like she did against Coco here last year, beating the American, her compatriot Gauff, in the opening round. Sophia kind of does have an edge because this will be Iga's first match on the grass court this season, as she did not play any grass court lead-up events this year. I still think that Iga should come through this. I can picture her maybe getting trouble in the opening set or so, but once Iga finds her footing, I feel like just she should come through that match. Now, Petra Martic in round 2, I'm not too worried about her for Iga. I think the big challenge for her, though, will come in the third round, where I think we could see an upset there. Strong, dangerous floaters like Yulia Putintseva and Angelique Kerber, who was the champion in 2018. Those two face each other in the opening round in a tricky match. And Putintseva, she doesn't really perform that well in slams, but she did win a title on the grass this season in Birmingham. Kerber has little form herself, but she's another one that could just come out of nowhere. And once she strings together a couple matches, she can go on a deep run here, especially seeing as though she's had a lot of great results here on the grass in her career. And then Katerina Siniakova, her projected seeded opponent, I think could be tricky too. She's got some excellent wins on the grass this season, beating the likes of Zheng, Emma Navarro, and Ludmila Samsonova, although she did withdraw from the Bad Hamburg semifinals due to an injury, so that's definitely concerning. But I feel like if she's healthy, she could definitely upset Iga. Looking down, 23rd seed Caroline Garcia is there in that little bottom portion, and I honestly expect her to come out and just lose to Anna Blinkova, who has beaten her twice in a slam already. Anastasia Potapova is unseeded, and for me, that's a dangerous floater. She made the Birmingham semifinals playing excellent tennis, but she did slip and injure her knee in Eastbourne, so that's a big question mark of whether she'll be healthy enough to compete and go deep there. If she's healthy, I think she can. At the bottom, we have a mouth-watering clash between Jelena Ostapenko and Ajla Tomljanovic. The last time these two played here at Wimbledon was in 2021, and that was definitely a moment, a firecracker moment. Those two had the most controversial moment of the tournament and of the year, to be honest. They did play this year in Melbourne at the Australian Open, and Jelena took that one in 3 sets, but Ajla honestly has looked in much better form recently on the grass, as she made the Birmingham final, while Jelena has gone 1-2 on the grass this season. However, the Latvian is so hot and cold, so she could honestly catch fire too, and not only beat Ajla, but just go on a deep run and win the whole thing. But I think I will stick with, I guess, the safer pick, even though she's the lower ranked player of the two, and have the Aussie pull off the upset. As I mentioned in my intro, I saw a lot of people say that Iga has a bad draw and it's awful. And yes, while it's not the best. It's not great. I don't think it's that bad. Like I said again, Kenin is not in great form, and neither is her biggest op, Ostapenko. Again, that third round will be tough, I feel, regardless. So I think if she is able to come through that first week, she can surely go on a deep run and, of course, take the title. I think a lot of people don't realize that even though Iga doesn't perform her best at Wimbledon, it's her only slam she has yet to reach the semifinals at. She is the girls' champion from 2018, so she surely knows how to play on grass. So I think that we shouldn't underestimate her just because grass isn't her best surface. I just think it is kind of tough, though, because she has no grass court matches under her belt from this year, and I really did want to pick her to advance, but I don't know. I actually think I might have her fall before the second week in the third round. This is going to be a huge gamble, but I think I'm going to go with the Dr. Ayla Tomljanovic. She's made the quarterfinals in her last two appearances at SW19 in 2021 and in 2022, so she clearly loves it here. It's also worth noting that players have definitely been struggling with their footing on the grass this season, and that could be a problem for Iga for sure. I'm not going to say that she's going to suffer some injury, but that could be a big problem for her, just trying to find her footing on the grass. Now, moving on to the defending champion, Marketa Vondrousova, in her section. The defending champ, I think, has a great opportunity to go deep again here in this tournament. Up top is 11th seed Danielle Collins, who gets a tricky first-round opponent in Clara Tauson. The Dane Tauson is super talented, and Danielle has not played on grass this year, so that's definitely an upset alert in my opinion. However, if the Dynamo can prevail in that one and get some matches under her belt like Iga, I think she could definitely make it to the second week. Beatrice Haddad Maia, her projected third-round opponent, is normally very good on the grass, but the Brazilian has struggled with form all season and has one measly 2024 grass court win, and that was over a big Kaya, Tamara Korpach. The Brazilian, though, does have a nice draw herself, so maybe this could be where she turns it around. At the top of this bottom portion, there's a good popcorn match between Barbora Krejcikova and Veronika Kudermetova. Krejcikova has not done too much at all this season, and I think that she is vulnerable, especially against a solid grass player like Kudermetova. Veronika is allergic to the slams, though, it seems, so I don't know about her. This is a great opportunity once again for Vondrousova to go deep and make the quarterfinals again, but she did injure her knee after falling in Berlin, so that's another question mark there for her. And there's also the potential pressure of being the defending ladies champ that she might have to contend with and might trip her up as she tries to navigate her way through the draw. If Marketa is healthy, though, nonetheless, I think that she will make the Elite Eight. Danielle Collins is obviously her biggest threat. And the thing about the American is that she has yet to reach the second week at the All England Club in her career, though most of her early losses were to solid grass court players. I could see the Dynamo come through, honestly, but I will stick with Vondrousova to make the quarterfinal. Next, Elena Rybakina, the 2022 champion, in her path to winning a second Wimbledon crown, will start against Elena Gabriela Rus, and she could then face Laura Siegemund, the German, in the second round. 30th seed Leylah Fernandez in the third round, Ludmila Samsonova in the fourth, Jessica Pegula in the quarters, Iga in the semis, and Coco Gauff in the final. I think that Elena's draw looks good, to be honest. She should clear her opening two opponents pretty easily, and her first challenge is likely to come in that third round, where she could face Leylah Fernandez, who is currently in the Eastbourne finals. And Leylah has been playing honestly great grass court tennis this season. She made the quarterfinals, I believe, in Birmingham, playing solid, losing to Tomljanovic, and then this week in Eastbourne, she beat Madison Keys in that semifinal to reach the final. So definitely look out for her to do something if she's able to come through her early round of matches. Now, a potential second round opponent for Leylah is Alicia Parks, who is a big dangerous floater here. Alicia is ranked outside the top 120, but she's been playing great tennis on the grass and is 10-1, I believe, on the surface this year. She's fresh off a title, a 125 title, and at the Veneto Open, and then she had to come through qualifying to make the tournament, and she breezed through qualish as she only dropped 9 games en route to the main draw. Alicia has an interesting opening round opponent in Caroline Wozniacki. The Danish woman is making her return to Wimbledon for the first time, I believe, since 2019. Wozniacki had a solid showing in Baden-Württemberg, making the quarterfinals, beating Kudermetova en route and Svitolina en route, but she literally fell during her quarter match against Emma Navarro and ultimately had to retire at 1-0 in the third set. It's also worth noting that Alicia beat Leylah Fernandez in the second round at the Australian Open, so she surely has the game to trouble the lefty. Now, honestly, I was kind of inclined to maybe pick Fernandez to go on a little deep run here, but I am worried that she might have too much mileage on her going deep in back-to-back tournaments like this, so I'm not so certain that she will go ahead and upset Rybakina. I think that Elena simply will be too solid. Rybakina also has some question marks surrounding her as she had to retire mid-match during her Berlin quarterfinal due to an illness. I don't think that should impact her too much. Hopefully she doesn't pick up some issue or injury though, or hopefully an illness doesn't come back and bite her again. Two informed Russians, Anna Kalinskaya, who made the Berlin final, and Ludmila Samsonova, who won the Alabama Open 250 tournament the first week of the grass swing, are set to face off in the third round. Now, you think that they would be a shoot-in to face each other in that round of 32, but some dangerous floaters like Rybakina and Elena Kalinina could trip them up. And then two, there's noting that Kalinskaya and Samsonova have not had a whole lot of slam success prior to this slam in particular. Once again, I think it's a decent draw for Elena, but the only thing I'm worried about really is her health, but I think she's going to be fine, and I will have her make the quarterfinals yet again. Two-time finalist Ons Jabeur is at the top of Jessica Pegula's section, and Ons has looked decent in her two grass court tournaments, but she did pull out of the Berlin quarterfinal against Coco Gauff mid-match after dropping the opening set due to an apparent illness. Ons's draw looks relatively decent for her to play herself into form, but she does need to watch out for Robert Montgomery, the qualifier in round 2, as she's been slowly making her mark on the tour. Julie Niemeyer's there. She made the quarterfinals in 2022, and then of course Elena Svitolina is a potential third round opponent for Ons. Elena made the semifinals here on an excellent run, beating Swiatek in the process, but the Ukrainian has struggled all season, and she did fall early to Caroline Wozniacki, so she doesn't seem to be in the best of form. Nottingham winner Katie Bolter is seated 32nd in that bottom power, and she could get the Berlin champion Pegula in the third round. Pegula's game is very well suited for the grass, as we saw in Germany, and I think that she could go deep here, but if she faces Bolter in that third round, she'd have to overcome two big obstacles: an informed Brit and a rowdy center court crowd. Honestly, this is going to be another big gamble, but I'm going with Katie Bolter to come through and make the quarterfinals. She would have to likely beat two top 10 players in Pegula and Ons Jabeur, but I think she can do it. She's playing the best tennis of her life right now, and she's performed decent at Wimbledon in the previous years. She's a type of player that thrives off of having that home crowd support, and she's born to play on the grass. Grass is her favorite surface, and I think once again, with the crowd behind her back, and if she plays her best tennis, there's no reason why she can't make the second week and go beyond. Transitioning to the bottom half, we have Qinwen Zheng's section, which is very much full of opportunity. I think this is where our surprise quarterfinalists could come out of. Zheng, she has a great draw, to be honest. In the third round, she's projected to meet Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, but Pavlyuchenkova hasn't shown us too much recently, so that's definitely a very much winnable, excellent section. She has the best section to me out of the top seeds to make it through to the second week. Moving down, Maria Sakkari, she also has a decent section. She's projected to face Ekaterina Alexandrova, who again is allergic to the Grand Slams. Ekaterina Alexandrova, I think she's only made one slam second week in her entire career. And I think that her opening round opponent, Emma Raducanu, the Brit, will beat her and upset her in the opening round. Raducanu has showed decent form this grass season. She made a semifinal in Nottingham, and she made the quarterfinals in Eastbourne, where she picked up her very first top 10 win, beating world number 5 Jessica Pegula. So she is very much in form, and I think that she'll for sure have the crowd behind her back, and that can go a long way. And then Sakkari has not made a slam second week in over 2 years. Her last slam second week appearance was at the 2022 Australian Open, and unfortunately for her, I just think that when it comes to the slam, she has such a big mental block. And while you would think that she would have a great path to the second week here, or decent path to the second week, or at least to the third round, I don't know if she'll make the third round, because most of her losses have come first or second round in these majors, and I think, honestly, anyone can beat her. So I do not expect Sakkari to come through at all and make this second week. In fact, I will be going with Raducanu to come through and make the quarterfinal. I think that Zheng, once again, she has a great opportunity to do so and come through. But Raducanu is in the best form out of all these players here in this draw. I mean, she is a Grand Slam champion for a reason. She's a good player, so maybe that shouldn't be too much of a surprise, but For me, even though she's unseeded, she's going to be the favorite to come through and make the quarterfinals. So that's going to be my pick there. Looking down at Aryna Sabalenka, she is opening against Amina Betkas, the American, and could face Donna Vekic in the second round, Diana Yastremska in the third, Daria Kasatkina in the fourth round, Zheng in the quarters, Coco in the semis, and Iga in the final. This is a somewhat decent draw for the third seed. She has a lopsided head-to-head against Daria Kasatkina in Aryna's favor. I think she leads the head-to-head against Kasatkina 7-2, and she beat her decisively last week in Berlin. So that's great that she has that projected fourth round opponent. However, her second round against Donna Vekic potentially could be very, very tricky. Vekic leads the head-to-head over Sabalenka 6-2, so that's definitely her pigeon. So that's something to look out for Sabalenka. And Vekic too is playing great tennis right now. She's currently in the Bad Homburg final. So if Aryna does not bring her game, Vekic might be able to do something. Although Donna lately has not been able to bring her best tennis at the Slam, so that's something for Sabalenka to have as solace. And then on the flip side, Sabalenka, to me, I still think she is the queen of the Slams right now on the WTA Tour. Before that loss to Andreeva, she had reached 6 consecutive Slam semifinals, so I expect her to bring her best tennis. The only thing about Sabalenka, though, is a potential shoulder problem that she's dealing with right now, which forced her to retire mid-match in that Berlin quarterfinal against Anna Kalinskaya. I think that in the top half, there's Andreeva, who obviously knows how to turn up for a Slam, and she beat Aryna Sabalenka in the most recent Slam, Roland Garros, to reach the semifinals. I think Andreeva has a decent draw, although she is guaranteed to face a injured warrior in the second round if she makes it there against either Karolina Muchova or Paula Badosa, which is set to be an intriguing popcorn match. Muchova is playing just her second tournament after a 10-month-long injury layoff, and she actually retired or gave a walkover to Madison Keys from Eastbourne, so hopefully she's healthy enough to compete and play a completed finished match against Badosa, but that's definitely a big popcorn match to watch between those two. Kasatkina could be a problem too there. She is currently in the finals of Eastbourne and is in good form, so maybe Kasatkina could get her lick back if she were to play Aryna in that fourth round, but I just think the matchup is just too much for her right now. So yeah, Sabalenka will be my pick to reach her third consecutive Wimbledon quarterfinal. Now, Jasmine Paolini, the 7th seed, I think she has a good draw. She actually lost to Kasatkina in the Eastbourne semifinals, but she's been showing great form. And even though the Italian has never won a match at Wimbledon, I think that she has a great shot at, of course, not only winning a match at Wimbledon, but going deep here yet again in a major. Her first 2 opening round opponents shouldn't be that much of a challenge. And then I do think, though, in the third round, she could face either Bianca Andreescu, who made the Libama Open final, or Lena Noskova, who is an excellent player, and I think that she should do well in grass herself. That match, second round match, potentially between Noskova and Andreescu, could be huge. I think either one of those women can beat Paolini and go deep here in this tournament. So that little mini section is a little interesting. I'm intrigued to see who will come out of that. And then looking down, we have Madison Keys, who is on course to face Marta Kostyuk in the third round. That match honestly should happen. The biggest threat I see in the way of that would be Peyton Stearns potentially upsetting Kostyuk, which I honestly could see happening because the Ukrainian has not been in good form since reaching the Stuttgart finals. Ultimately, I think that's why I will have Madison Keys come through that to make the second week. And Keys, overall, out of everyone here in this section, has the most experience playing at Wimbledon. She's the only one to reach a quarterfinal, I believe, at the championships. And I think she'll do that yet again here and make back-to-back quarterfinals at this year's championships. American Coco Gauff is the 2nd seed. This is her first time being seeded second at a Slam, and she will open against her compatriot, Caroline Dolehide, and can then face Elisabetta Cocciaretto in the second, Sorana Cristea in the third, Azarenka in the fourth, Paolini in the quarters, Sabalenka in the semis, and Iga in the final. At the top is where things are the most interesting here, in my opinion. Vika's mini section is the toughest to me out of the whole draw. There's 3 Slam champions in Vika, Sloane, and Naomi, and a former finalist at Wimbledon in Pliskova, and then 2 informed players in Diana Schneider, who is currently in the Bad Homburg final, and Emma Navarro, who has been in form and has been rising all season. Vika and Sloane, definitely a big popcorn match to me. I would give the edge to Vika because she has shown better form to me thus far on the grass, making the Berlin semifinal, getting a great win over Sakri in the process. Sloane, meanwhile, got that lopsided 4-love lost to Raducanu and Eastbourne this past week, so not having whole lot of confidence heading into SW19. Pliskova and Schneider is another big popcorn match. Schneider is currently in the Bad-Homburg final herself, and Pliskova made a final 2. She made the Nottingham final, ultimately falling to Katie Boulter, but she's been in great form, of course. And I honestly would give the slight edge to the Czech woman because I predict that Schneider might not have a lot left in the tank after going so deep the past few tournaments. Navarro, meanwhile, she lost to Schneider in the Bad-Homburg semifinals and is likely to face Naomi Osaka in the second round. Naomi, at first glance, I thought had a great draw, but then looking back and doing more research, I realized that Diane Perry, her opening round opponent, has been showing good form on the grass. She made the semifinals at Nottingham, losing to Pliskova in 3 sets, and I think she has the tricky game style that Osaka hates to play against, and she can honestly oust the Japanese woman in that opening round. Not to mention, this is Naomi's first time at Wimbledon in 5 years, so that will be a very big challenging section for Naomi. Naomi, she looks to be in okay form. She made the quarterfinals at the Libema Open and lost opening round to Xinwen Zheng in Berlin, so interesting form from her, but we'll see what she can do. I think that if Naomi brings her best tennis, she can come through this section, for sure. But that's a big if, and especially if Pliskova does come through to the third round, which I think she will, it'll be hard for Naomi because Osaka has lost her last few matches to the Czech woman. Now, looking down at Coco Gauff's section, it's much better, or much easier, or much less interesting, to be honest. I think that, though, we should watch out for Caroline Dolehide in the first round. That American Dolehide, she did beat Pliskova in Birmingham, so I could see her give Gauff a run for her money. And then Elisabetta Cochereto, she showed good form in Birmingham where she beat Ostapenko en route to the semifinals, so Coco needs to be on it for sure. I am a little bit worried, actually definitely worried for Coco in that 4th round. She has not advanced past the round of 16 at Wimbledon in her career, and I'm not so confident that she can do it here. I think I'll go ahead and pick her, though, to make the Elite 8 because she is so solid in the majors, and she's such a big match player. She's so tough to beat, and she's one player that can beat just about anyone who is ranked below her, so yeah, I can see her do it. Going over my predictions, I have Tomljanovic and Vondrousova in the quarters, Rybakina, Boulter, and then Raducanu, Sabalenka, and then the 2 Americans, Keys and Gauff. And advancing to the semifinals, I have Vondrousova and Rybakina, and then Sabalenka, Keys. In the finals, I have Rybakina and Sabalenka going at it, with the 4th seed, Rybakina, winning the title, winning her 2nd Wimbledon trophy. Now, addressing a few big things that I have from my predictions. Of course, first, the Iga snub. Tomljanovic, once again, I can't stress enough, is a very huge gamble. I acknowledge that. And I honestly could see Elena waking up and going for the whole title there. But I think that she can do it, Tomljanovic. I think she showed great form in Birmingham. Tomljanovic making the quarterfinals is hinged on Iga losing in the 3rd round. And for sure, Iga's draw could open up by then, but I don't know. And then Danielle Collins, another snub potentially there, but I'm not really too stressed out about that. You know, anything could happen from Danielle. So if I do happen to overlook her, it's not the end of the world. So I honestly, I would be happy if Collins did go on a very deep run. She deserves it. And then Leila Fernandez, as I mentioned earlier, could for sure get Elena Rybakina out of here in that 3rd round, where she'd probably be more vulnerable. Rybakina still, she's had a few shaky moments in the slams, lost a couple times earlier in the slams than she probably should have. So for sure, Leila can take advantage of that. Then the 2 Russians, Kalinskaya and Samsonova, could be tricky for her too if either one of those 2 were able to make the 2nd week. Katie Boulter is another huge bet, especially seeing that Ons Jabeur is in her little section, and Jabeur has made the finals the past 2 years in a row. Also, I think Katie has never made a slam 2nd week, so that'll be a big, a milestone or hump to overcome for her, especially seeing that her draw is not the easiest, but I do think that she can do it, especially with the crowd behind her back and her playing her best tennis of her life. Pegula, a snub, but not too mad about it because she, of course, has that quarterfinal mental block. I don't think that she will go all the way in the tournament, but she could surprise me there herself. I actually am pretty confident in my Raducanu pick, even though she could very well lose in the opening round. That opening round match against Alexandrova will be her biggest test to me in that section. Of course, Xinwen Zheng, great player, but she is prone to maybe shaking up a bit, and she's for sure beatable, in my opinion, for Raducanu. So I could see Emma for sure making the Elite 8. And then Sabalenka, I think I don't have to explain much about that. biggest threat for her yet again would be Vekic and maybe her health. And then I could see for sure Paolini making another slam quarterfinal. I wouldn't be surprised if Linda Noskova came through there and made the quarterfinals as well. But I think that Madison Keys has been playing great tennis lately. She made the Eastbourne semifinals, and she's due for another big run in the slam. So I'm confident in having her come through and beating Coco too. And the reason why I have Keys beating Gauff in that quarterfinal to make the semifinals because I think that the matchup favors Keys, especially on this fast grass court surface. The serve would be very key for Coco. The first serve looked good in Berlin, but the second serve, not so much. She threw in a couple more double faults than I would have liked to see. And then two, I don't think her forehand is a Wimbledon winning forehand. The thing about Coco, though, is that she, as I mentioned earlier, is a player that beats the players that she's supposed to beat, and that is going to be huge for her. It's also a big factor that she does not have to face Iga until the finals at least, and so that's going to be huge for her. I think that if she is able to take advantage of some opportunities that might present themselves in this draw, she could potentially go all the way, but I think a lot of that is dependent on whether big threats like Sabalenka or Rybakina are knocked out early in this draw. Then lastly, talking about my two finalists, Rybakina and Sabalenka, that's not really too much of a gamble. The only reason why it might be a gamble is because those two did withdraw from Berlin or pull out of their match mid-match in that quarterfinals of Berlin due to various problems. Of course, Rybakina, her illness, and then Sabalenka, her health. But I think Sabalenka, I picked her to win the tournament after she lost her at Roland Garros. And ultimately, the reason why I picked Rybakina to win this tournament is because I just think that she will be the hungrier of the two, and I think that she has something to prove here in this slam. So that's why I ultimately picked her. And I also think she has the mental edge if she were to face Sabalenka in that match, seeing as though she had been there, done that, already won Wimbledon. And I feel like Sabalenka winning Wimbledon would mean so much for her. And I could see potentially a mental block coming back for her like it did in last year's semifinal against Ons Jabeur, where she was up a set in a break. So I think that's ultimately why I do have Rybakina coming to win this title. I think that she has probably either the best or one of the best draws out of the top seeds here, and I think that can go a long ways. So, and two, I think still to me, she is the best grass court player right now in the past 2 years. She's made the second week at her last 3 Wimbledon appearances. And yeah, I just think that with her big serve, her big ground strokes, and just her game, she's long overdue for another slam title. So that's my pick. That's all I have, y'all, for this women's preview. And let me know in the comments what y'all think about the draw, whether you do think it's a tough draw for Iga and an easy draw for Aryna, and whether you agree with me having Rybakina and Sabalenka make the finals. And if not, if you don't agree, who are your own personal picks to make the quarters, make the semis, ultimately make the final and win the title? Make sure y'all subscribe to and click the notification bell so you're notified whenever I drop my men's draw preview video coming later today. Thank y'all so much for watching. I'm Christian Basnight yet again, and I'll see you next time on Christian's Court.